Alright, guys. So, we're gonna do, I guess, sticking with my current thing, which is religion for now. Gonna be getting into prayer. Now, I oftentimes make the accurate claim, that intercessory prayer is scientifically invalidated. And some people just automatically react with, science can't invalidate that. And actually, yes, it can. It's actually pretty simple. The gold standard method for doing this is double blind randomized control trials. It's pretty simple. So, unless you're going to make the case, some really hilarious mental gymnastics here, that your God doesn't want to be proven, so he chooses to not intercede when he knows that someone is trying to, like, test his presence or some shit like that. Like, unless you're gonna make that claim, this is it closes the fucking door here. It's like it's done. We've proven it. So I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. So prayer is a sort of specific form of meditation. So it does provide benefits, but they're not benefits that allude to some sort of higher power. They're benefits that are bestowed upon anyone who meditates, and there are many of them. There's a ton of literature on the benefits of meditation. I'm all about it. I really don't have much patience for it, but the science is clear. It's great. It's fucking awesome. It provides so many fucking benefits. Again, but where was I going there? Aside from that, that is just you as an individual, and it's only because you're in a sort of altered state of consciousness by meditation. That's it. Nothing more. It's actually just science. So any further belief is just really delusions. It's just like an overactive imagination. So I'm going to read a little bit here from an excerpt. This is a really fucking long NCBI uh, case study here. So I'm only going to be digging through parts of it because there's no way in fuck I'm going to read this whole damn thing. But I will quickly. The title is Prayer and Healing, a Medical and Scientific Perspective on Randomized Control Trials. You can find it. Again, it's PMC PubMed Central. It's like the fucking gold standard when it comes to all sorts of peer-reviewed research. So, as I said, we have already done this. We've already attempted to control for other variables and done it in ways to where we can, again, control for, like, whether or not the person was aware of the prayer. Intercessory, of course. So intercessory prayer is basically, it's almost all prayer, really. It's prayer where you're attempting to intercede, as the name implies, in, like, if you believe in God, God's plan, so to speak, which is very arrogant in the first place. It's like, if you are a religious person, which I'm not, but if you are, you believe that well, normally, I assume you believe that God knows all and sees all. He knows the past, the present, and the future. He knows your thoughts, all this good stuff, which sort of makes prayer a waste of time in the first place, because you are just a human, blah blah blah. He knows all and sees all, and things are going to happen according to his will. So you, some random insect attempting to change his plan, so to speak, based on your limited understanding is incredibly arrogant and just dumb, even from the perspective of a religious person. So I won't even go into the fact that I think it's all fake anyway. Uh, that's using your own fucking worldview. But now we have, well, it's been a long time actually. These aren't new. But so we've got Aviles et al. Examined cardiovascular outcomes related to prayer. In this study, 799 coronary care unit patients at discharge were randomized to intercessory prayer or no prayer conditions. Prayer was conducted by 5 persons per patient at least once a week for 26 weeks. Patients were considered to belong to a high-risk group if they were 70 years old or older, or if they had any of the following: diabetes mellitus, previous myocardial infarction, cerebrovascular disease, or peripheral vascular disease. The primary endpoint of the study was any of the following: death, cardiac arrest, rehospitalization for cardiovascular disease, coronary revascularization, or an emergency department visit for cardiovascular disease. By the end of 26 weeks, a primary endpoint had occurred in 25.6% of patients in the prayer group and in 29.3% of patients in the control group. The difference was not statistically significant. The results remained non-significant when data were analyzed separately for high and low risk patients. Thus, this study showed that, as delivered in this study, intercessory prayer did not influence the 26-week outcome after discharge from a coronary care unit. Other recent randomized control trials have also reported negative results. For example, Krukov et al. Reported no benefits with off-site prayer in patients, N equals 748, undergoing percutaneous coronary interventions, and Aston et al. Found that neither remote prayer delivered by professional healers nor remote prayer delivered by nurses with no training or experience in distance healing resulted in benefits to patients, N equals 156, with acquired immunodeficiency syndrome defining opportunistic infections. Now we have worse outcomes, which is interesting. Benson et al. Described a triple-blind randomized controlled study that examined whether remote intercessory prayer influenced recovery after coronary artery bypass graft surgery and whether the certainty of being prayed for was associated with better outcomes. The sample comprised 1,802 patients in 6 hospitals in the USA. These patients were randomized into 3 groups. 604 were prayed for after being informed that they may not be prayed for. 597 were not prayed for after similarly being informed that they may or may not be prayed for. And 601 were prayed for after being informed they would definitely be prayed for. Prayer commenced 1 day before the surgery and continued for 14 days. 3 mainstream religious sites prayed daily for patients assigned to receive prayer. Assessment of outcomes was made by nurses who were blind to the group assignments. The primary outcome was the presence of any complication within 30 days of surgery. Secondary outcomes were any major event, including death. The study sought to examine the efficacy of intercessory prayer and not to test the presence of God. The design was described by Dussek et al. If the 2 groups that did not know for certain whether or not they were being prayed for, in the 2 groups that did not know for certain whether or not they were being prayed for, complications occurred in 52% of patients who received intercessory prayer and in 51% of those who did not. In contrast, complications occurred in a significantly larger proportion of patients, 59%, who knew for certain that they were being prayed for. Major events and 30-day mortality rates, however, were similar across the 3 groups. This study therefore showed that remote intercessory prayer did not improve outcomes after coronary artery bypass graft surgery. In fact, the knowledge of being prayed for was associated with a slightly but significantly higher rate of post-surgical complications. So, you can only really theorize about this without additional data, but people actually had worse outcomes when they knew they were being prayed for. Now, it could simply be that again, this is just random assumption, but it could be that they were less likely to put any sort of effort, like, I guess, how do I put this? Effort willpower wise in, like, improving their situation and doing things that could better their odds, so to speak, like through a purely naturalistic worldview. Like, because they believed that prayer would somehow solve their problems or magically fix shit, like they were a little bit too confident in the results or something. That it's a possibility. Honestly, I don't know the answer, but the statistics, the results speak for themselves. It doesn't fucking do anything, and if anything, if the people know about it, it harms you. So there have been other studies that have a completely opposite thing, but in any of those studies, and I've dug into them at length, because honestly, like, I'm not looking to prove something wrong. This is just where the research leads. So I would look into those studies and be like, interesting, prayer does something? Like, if the people don't know about it and it showed that prayer did something, that would be big, huge. Because, well, if someone knows, then you have to include the psychological element, which is why triple blind studies especially are important. But where was I going there? Yeah. So in any of the studies that showed anything to the contrary, there was always some sort of how do I put it? Conflict of interest. There was always some sort of bullshit involved. Like, there was a religious organization that actually funded the study, and then that's why they came out with the results that they did. Like, just complete stupidity. Like, it's not science. And in any of those cases, I was able to find that there's something there that's, like, not scientific, some sort of bullshit. Like, either they're directly just fucking lying, they're skewing numbers, or manipulating data to support their claim. So, in any actual scientific studies that were completely neutral, that just wanted to find out whether or not intercessory prayer was effective, this is what we've got. It's just either it has no statistical significance at all, or it actually harms people. So, when I say that intercessory prayer has been scientifically invalidated, this is what I'm talking about. And there's really no good argument against it. It's just your feelings versus the facts. Thank you for your time.